Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast, where we share stories that are shaping the halter horse industry. And in this episode, we're talking to two individuals that recently made a bold move. They're turning in their amateur cards and stepping into the professional arena as halter horse trainers. I'm sitting down with Leighton Wetzel of WC Show Horses and Logan Lorenz of Lorenz Quarter Horses. Their passion for conformation training and the daily routine has led them to building their own training businesses. We're going to talk about what inspired their transition, the reality of their new role, and the advice that they'd give anyone who's thinking about making the same leap. I have a bonus guest on this episode, and that is Dalton Collins. So these three gentlemen have all been guests of Fit for Halter. Leighton was on episode 31, if you want to look back at that, in his amateur days. Logan, episode 35, and Dalton, episode 32. So Dalton's an amateur exhibitor and also an auctioneer. So thankful to have all of you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks, Amy.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for hopping on and sharing your story. So let's just start right at the top. When did each of you, Leighton and Logan, start thinking seriously about turning in your amateur card?
For myself, I've thought about it for the past few years very seriously. It's something I've always wanted to do, though, since I was a little kid. My dream, growing up, I wanted to be a vet, a blacksmith, and a horse trainer. Those are the professions I wanted to do. I wanted to do all three. So it's kind of I do a lot of the equine reproduction stuff. So kind of do some of the vet work. I started barefoot trimming some of our brood mares, and now this seems like the last thing to make the whole dream a reality.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on Logan there. I grew up around horses for a long time and just looked up to a lot of horse trainers as you went through it. And, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a harder horse trainer, though. I wanted to be a pleasure horse trainer. And so I rode with Brian Cox a couple of times, just for example, and some other guys around here that's local to Ohio. But the harder horses really captured it for me. So I've been thinking about it for a couple of years as well, and we just finally made the jump.
Well, we're better because of it. We need new, young folks coming into the business. So did either of you have a moment where it just clicked for you that you were meant to do this professionally?
I don't know that it ever really clicked, and I said, man, now's the time. But looking around at the other trainers, and I'm not calling anybody old or anything, but I think that there needs to be some new blood that's brought into the profession. And some of these folks are probably thinking about slowing down before long. So I did think now was maybe a good time, but nothing really just said go for it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was kind of lost trying to come up with some other things to do professionally, and nothing really fit. I'd always been turned away. You don't want to be a trainer. It's a really tough way to make a living. You don't want to do that. Go do something else where you can do your DIY stuff on the side, and you'll be much happier doing that. And I was quite depressed, really. I mean, because this. I was in a bad place, and I remember praying a lot and asking God to show me, what's my purpose, show me what I'm supposed to be doing. And, I just kind of kept coming back to this. It's what I love. I'm really good at it. And it clicked, I mean, it's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I love it. It's clear that both of you had a conviction about getting started and rolling into it. And to support your thoughts, Leighton, about a younger generation, I've had several guests who, before, after, doing our recording, talk about the need that we have for younger individuals coming into the business. It's the cry of our heart with getting youth involved with so many areas of the industry. We need more people coming in, not only to replace those who will retire, but just in general to fill the pen. So I appreciate, as an amateur, appreciate you coming onto the scene as professionals. It gives me hope in thinking that there's longevity. So
Yeah, future.
thanks for. Yeah.
As long as I'm around, it's not going to die if I'm the only one doing it.
Woo! You got a lot of work ahead of you then, Logan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not only like a noble decision, it's an uphill decision in a small niche market where we know it's competitive and there's a lot of, it seems like, extraneous stressors or things that are making it more challenging. So way to go. We're glad you're here. So tell us what it looked like when you made the decision. What were the first couple of things that you did after you had your mind made up? Now's the time. I'm flipping the switch, moving from amateur to pro. What did the first couple of steps look like when you made that decision?
As I made the decision, I reached out to my network within the Halter community and some people that I've bought horses from and seeked advice from, and some other trainers and things like that. And just, asked a lot of questions, ran different ideas past people. Of course, fit your barn up, get ready to hopefully have clients come into the barn as you go to bed at night, and pray that you're not doing this for absolutely no reason. Because once you say you're in, it's too late. So, and just making sure that you're ready and prepared to take this on and be in charge and taking care of somebody else's horses. That's a little nerve-wracking in itself, because it's on you. Whatever happens, it's on you. And I take that very seriously and very personally, probably a little too much. And it's a little stressful, but as the time goes, it gets better.
Yeah.
For myself, the number one thing was, to get my judge's card. So I'm a little bit late this year because I wasn't going to give up my amateur status until I had my judge's card. This year it was really tough because we've got the best set of babies we've ever had. And I mean, they're really competitive. So it was a really tough decision because I would have liked to have shown them in the amateur division. But talking to some people and having your judge's card is one of the most important things. And it was, referred to me by multiple people. That's really the number one thing you need to have if you're going to make this work. And so when I applied for it this year, and then once I received it, then I made the decision, okay, this is the year I'm going to do it. And so that's, I just announced that, a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What kind of steps is it actually to becoming pro? I mean, do you have to call AQHA and ask I want to become professional, I'm giving up, how do you actually turn in your amateur card for someone who might be thinking about doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't done that yet, but
okay.
Obviously that's, I do think that that's a phone call where I'll say I need to change my status, but I haven't attempted to show in any amateur classes. So I don't see any, major ordeals through that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's obviously, I will need to shift my amateur status. I am a lifetime member with AQHA, so I have that membership. Because they don't allow you to buy a lifetime amateur membership through AQHA. So you have to buy a separate amateur membership also. So I have the lifetime membership. So I just have to, I guess, cancel out my amateur membership.
I'm not called either, but I've not made any attempts to become an amateur class.
I didn't know if there was an actual process you had to do, or if it was just, an honor thing that, hey, I'm taking clients and now I can't show amateur, So.
Yeah. It's a good question because we might have a listener who is considering it, or has thought about making that transition. So, gosh, people are full of questions. So
it is a good question because I have thought about that, this week and the last couple of weeks. I really probably should call AQHA and APHA and all the associations I have memberships with, and make sure it's all taken care of. But it's kind of been said to me, if you're not gonna try to show in any of those classes, it's really not,
right.
huge deal.
And then did either of you like work under other trainers or anything like that at any point, or did you guys all just kind of do it yourself and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna start taking some clients, or kind of how'd you guys decide to do that?
So I have interned under Monty Horn and Anna Horn, and Dewey and Tammy Smith. Also, Garrett Jacobs, Randy Jacobs' son, worked out of our barn when I was about 6 years old. So I was able to go to the barn every day and soak up all the knowledge because I was completely obsessed with it. And I've been very fortunate that my family's been able to send, horses out to multiple different trainers, and I've been able to watch them on the inside and soak up all their knowledge. So I've had a lot of people pour in knowledge.
I wouldn't say that I formally interned with anybody, but we've had horses with Matt Woodson in the past, and we had some horses with Tim Jackson in the past as well. And just as Logan said, you soak up as much information as you can. Just be a sponge at all times. And then, of course, when you're at horse shows, you're watching horse trainers and those guys that you look up to, and gals. And when you have questions, asking them, and when you get the information, write it down and use it, and try and form your own way of doing everything.
Yeah, it's much easier when you're an amateur to ask those questions.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game when you're on this side of the.
Are you feeling that already, Logan?
Not so much, because I got my judge's card right away.
Okay.
So it's all been very positive.
Okay. Have you judged a show already?
Yes, I judged the Yellow Rose. So it was very funny the way, they called, I don't know, 7 to 10 days before the Yellow Rose, and Don Falcon asked me if I would judge it. And I was still trying to decide if I was going to fully commit. And so I said, I'll judge it. And, so nobody had known that I gave up my amateur status, or very few people knew that I actually tested and did the whole deal. So, and I wasn't slated to judge it, so I wasn't on any of the forms. So there was quite a few people surprised to see me walking around that arena.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
I got quite a few like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was very positive, and I really appreciate all the people that reached out and, said congratulations, and, saying a few kind words about how well I did. And they, it was very, very nice.
Yeah. It takes those words of encouragement, I think, as affirmation, like, I'm headed in the right direction. This is going okay. Yeah. It means a lot. And I think we have a lot of people in the industry who are good at that. There's a lot of, mixed feelings, but I think there's a lot of folks who are good at encouraging others. So tell us a little bit about maybe some unexpected things that you've encountered as you've transitioned, either in your mind or in, your daily activities. Tell us if there's anything you've encountered that you didn't expect.
Kind of always planned for the worst. I never want it to be that way, but really nothing has really caught me by surprise, but it's been more so of understanding that everybody has different goals in mind, and that's, it's not just horses, just in life in general. And, some folks are just happy to be there, and some folks want to win, and some folks are, just happy owning horses, right? And so just keeping in mind that everybody's goals are different, and making sure that communication is number one, and you understand what your goals, what each client's goals are that are in the barn. And maybe they have multiple horses in the barn, and their goals for each horse are different. And I see that, and I think that's great. but knowing those right up front. So on my training contract, there's a whole paragraph that talks about your goals. And I ask that each client in the barn fills that out for each horse that they're going to have with me, because that tells me right up front what's expected of me in that horse for them. So just taking it slow and being upfront, being 100% honest, and communication is key.
Yeah, I mean, to build off of what Leighton said, when I've had the most success working with a trainer on the client side, the first question is, what are your goals? Is this horse capable of achieving those? And really laying it out and, being honest, to the best of your ability to, explain, yeah, we think this is capable, and not, blowing smoke up somebody's butt, saying, yeah, this one's going to win it because you want a training horse. To be really honest with somebody. And, sometimes those conversations are really hard because, it might be something that they raised and they love, it's their pet, and they think the world of it. But if their goal is to go win it, and you don't believe the horse is capable, you don't want to take that person's money, because it costs a lot of money to go to those horse shows.
Yeah, you're holding you hold a high level of importance in somebody's life when you've got their animal that they love and you've got their wallet.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight to carry. So tell us about your daily routines. What changes have happened as a result of transitioning from amateur and rhythms there with versus knowing that you've got clients to work for, or clients that are prospective clients that you're working for? How's your rhythm changed in that process?
For me, it's just been taking a lot of phone calls, answering a lot of texts, and I have a lot of people asking, what are your fees? Do you have availability? Just a lot of talking to people. It's interesting once you put out there that you're professional and you have your judge's card. I've had a lot of people contact me about buying horses, and they're looking for this, they're looking for that. So just, the daily grind is the same. Just talking to people and having conversations. And answering questions. That's been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, my daily routine hasn't changed any. I mean, I probably am in the barn a lot more. I would guess my wife would definitely tell you that I'm out there a lot more. Certainly because, I mean, you've got other people's horses in the barn, and you're checking on things a lot more, and you're just making sure that things are good, right? And to Logan's point, yeah, you're constantly on the phone. That's why when you're at a horse show and you see horse trainers, they're always on the phone. It's because everybody's calling or texting about something. But that's business, and you have to make yourself available to those folks at all times.
So I've got a little excerpt about that, about how, trainers can handle that differently. When I interned with Monty, he had his set time when he was in the barn, and he didn't answer phone calls, nothing. He was working with the horses, but you could talk to him from this time to this time, and that was it. Otherwise, he was working or he was on his off time, and he was very structured that way. Now, Dewey, I love the guy. He's on the phone constantly, all day, all hours, just getting things done and talking to people, and he likes to gab.
Yeah. I feel like that's the nature of our environment or culture right now anyway, or is the immediacy of people's needs, or maybe not the immediacy of a need, but expectation that there's a response quickly. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, the amount of time that a trainer spends on the phone, but you're right.
It's a lot.
The folks in the center of the pen are watching with one eye and one ear and, engaged in a conversation on the phone or texting or something. Yeah.
I think about, Chris Artenson. He has so many horses and so many customers. I don't know how he has the time to get back to everybody. It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah. We've experienced it, and he's very responsive. I don't know how he does it either.
Yeah. He's
I have
great.
no idea. Yeah. I think you've touched on this a little bit, but what is your plan for building trust with clients? Any thoughts on that, on proactive steps or pieces that you'll put in place to build trust?
I've invited all of my clients to the barn anytime that they would like to come and see their horses, number one. And I try to stress to them that if you're showing, then you need to come and put hands on the horse a couple of times before we go to a horse show. I like to think that all my horses are super broke, but the way I do things is completely different from the way that somebody else does things or the way that they handle their horses. And so open communication is always key with me. Back to the phone thing. You can text me, call me all day if you need to. If you want to come to the farm, you want to come to the barn and see your horses and do some practice and things like that, I 100% welcome it. And before you go buying horses, right, and you're going to send it to a horse trainer, you probably should be calling the horse trainer and saying, what do you think about this one? And these are my goals for this one. Because the answer may be no. Or it may be, yeah, it just constant communication and 100% transparency and honesty so that there's nothing left in the dark, right? And there's no surprises. There's nobody getting upset. You didn't say that. Well, I did, but you weren't listening. Just keeping it 100 all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to be able to please everybody 100% of the time. I mean, as best you try, it's just not possible. Some people are difficult, and some personalities just don't drive. I mean, you try your best. You're in the service industry. You do your best, but some people, they have certain expectations, and I think to try to give yourself the best shot of having a great outcome, is being honest, being, communicating, and making sure you're on the same team. You have the same goals. This is what we're trying to do with this one. And, just being honest and communicating, and I think your reputation says a lot about you. You should go talk to other people that have horses with that person, and ask them, how do you like it? What do they do well? Where all those questions that you should ask. You shouldn't just make a decision, oh, I want to send this horse to this person, and you have to make sure that they like your horse. I think when we've had the most success is when we've personally used outside trainers, is when the trainer really liked the horse. Might not have always been the best or the person at the top, but if they believed in the horse, they got the most out of the horse. And back to Leighton's deal about, somebody calling, and buying a horse and wanting to send it to you. If you're in that situation where you're buying a horse and then wanting to send it out, don't try to avoid that commission. If you really want to work with somebody, call them, ask them to find you something, because you want to have something that they believe in, and they're really tied to that horse and want to make that horse work, once they've bought it for you. And there's a lot of pressure to make sure you have a good outcome.
Yeah, I mean, you think about training horses as it's a long career, right? And it's a career that you have to maintain it. Even if you're just an amateur and you're showing horses, because there's a lot of amateurs that are at the top and they're hard to beat and get around any given day too. And so to Logan's point, year after year, you really should be trying to be consistent or trying to be better. And if you're at the top year after year, that's fantastic. But trying to maintain that consistency and stay relevant with the way that the industry is going and what the judges are looking for, that to me is difficult. It's difficult for all of us. And you shouldn't just be going out there because this is the latest and greatest stallion or this, that, the other, right? You should know what you're looking for and what the industry is looking for currently in the halter horse. So calling a professional, especially if you're going to send it out, I think is a crucial step, and making sure that the horse is worth the money and you're buying one that you should be buying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys kind of like walk through maybe how you're getting a client, are they basically calling you guys saying, hey, I have a horse to come, I want to send to you? Or is it like you see a horse and you approach that person and say, hey, I'd love to, take your horse in training? I mean, kind of what way is it working? Is it, they coming to you or are you guys going to them?
I have felt very, very fortunate to have everybody that's in my barn call me. I've not went seeking anybody. And I'll tell you why I haven't done that is the simple reason of I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, right?
Mm.
If they're with a trainer, I think that would be horribly disrespectful to try and take a horse or a client from another horse trainer. This business is pretty cutthroat as it is, and I think that would be crossing the line completely. So I feel, again, very fortunate. Everybody in the barn here has called me. And like Logan said, I mean, they call and they ask what your fees are, what's your plans for the year, where are you going to be, do you have room? There's 100 million questions, right?
There's so many you wouldn't even think about.
Yeah.
Guilty. Right here, guilty of asking all the questions.
Well, and we're living in a world where everything is expensive. It's just not horses, right, guys? I mean, everything that you do in life is expensive. If you're fishing for bass tournaments, it's expensive because I have a bad habit of it starts out as being fun and then I want to win, right? So folks really, and we're living in an economy where people need to get the most for their money. People work really hard. They care about their animals. The extra money, the little bit of extra money they have a month that they're spending on their animals means a lot to them. So taking that time to tell them your goals as a trainer and listening to them, because people really just want to be heard, right? They want to make sure that they're seen. And so if you can do those things, I think you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, just, that initial conversation of, what are your goals and is the horse capable of, making an attempt to do that, and being honest with somebody. I think, that those initial conversations are key. There's a story, when we sent JJ to Dewey, our stud LFL Allegiance to Dewey as a yearling, as a weanling, Dewey was the only one that ever really liked the colt. So that's kind of why I thought, well, he likes the colt. He will give him his best shot. And, the first conversation was, this is my goal. If he can't do it, we don't want to spend the money. And our goal was he needs to be top 3 at the select. If he's not going to do it, we don't want to go. And, he said, bring him up. Let's take a look at him. Let's see if it's reasonable. And he looked at him. He said, I think we can do it. He says, give me a week or a month and we'll kind of go from there and see if he can get into the program and if he buys in and does his deal, and we'll go from there. But, I think that those conversations and being really honest with somebody, it costs a tremendous amount of money, and, you need to know what the person's goals are. You can't just take a horse and start, collecting a check. You need to make sure you're on the same team and trying to accomplish the same things.
And then even after that, having the conversation of, I know the horse has been here for a month, maybe it's been here 60 days. And I just don't think that this is going to, your goals, we're not going to make them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the horse trainer that's going to stand here and take your money and tell you that it is. Because it doesn't look good for horse trainers to go out and get whooped every weekend either. Right? And it doesn't do the horse any
Yeah.
favor. It doesn't do the breeder any favor. It doesn't do the stallion any favor. So having that conversation and saying, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity, but this one isn't going to make it. Can you send me a different one, or let's go find you a different
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that conversation of this one isn't gonna achieve the goals that you're wanting to achieve. Let's go find one that's gonna do that for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good. I appreciate both of you and the emphasis you're putting on having goals. As a DIY amateur, we don't have somebody regularly pointing us to our goals. It's my husband and I out in the barn. It's just us. It's easy to lose sight of those. And honestly, you know, days go by where we're not fine tuning what we're doing in light of those goals. And I think that's one of the benefits that having a trainer brings is to keep you pointed in the direction that you said you wanted to go and you believe you want to go, and then making the decision on the horse and, you know, determining whether or not it can help you realize those goals makes a big difference. You guys are, like you said, Leighton, people just want to be heard. And I can imagine the conversations that you've had to have already with people
one. Well, this
deciding.
business can be very discouraging as it is, right?
Sure.
You work very hard on your horses as an amateur. You don't have a horse trainer. You don't have the $50,000 horse in your trailer, right? And it can be very discouraging. We've all been there. And I'm not going to tell you now that as a horse trainer, there aren't days where you're still a little bit discouraged because you feel like maybe you let your client down or you let your horse down. And being able to deal with that is also a chore in its own. And you know, maintaining a positive outlook and being upbeat and saying, hey, you know, we've either got to work harder or we've got to have that tough conversation and say we're going to have to buy a better horse. So it's just you're navigating so many things on a daily basis.
And it takes two people. You got to have people that'll meet you halfway. You know, I mean, that's where it comes down to those great clients. You know, they're reasonable and they want to make the relationship work as much as you do. That's where, you know, I found, you know, we've had the most success with working with people when, you know, we're reasonable and we really work to make it easier for everybody. Everybody's on the same page. We're all on the same team. And, you know, people want to do a better job for you when you bring that attitude. And so it's a better thing for everybody when you're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Have you noticed any difference in the associations? I noticed for the benefit of Facebook, Leighton, I've noticed you've got a Palomino maybe in your barn, or you've got a buckskin in your barn. Have you interacted much with the different associations and noticed any difference now that you're on the other side? Have you noticed any difference in those? Maybe there are world shows or anything that you're paying attention to now differently than you were as an amateur?
The one thing that I try and pay attention to the most is when I see it, and I know that Logan will appreciate this, and I know he'll have a lot to chime in on this having his card. When you go to a huge show and everybody's lineup, right? There's over 15 horses they're going to rejudge, okay, 15 or 16, and then they pull you back out, and each judge rejudges their lineup. I think it's very, very vital for the amateur exhibitor and horse trainers and the breeders to be able to look down through that lineup at a horse show and see consistency. I pay attention to that a lot because you can look down that line and say, this is what they're looking for. But if you look down that line and you've got a modern and you've got a real heavy first and second, it's like that all the way down through there. Well, then what does an amateur exhibitor say? What does a breeder say? I mean, it's really kind of hard to pick. It's kind of hard to say this is what they're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's across all associations. I don't think that's it's not just one place. And I'm not picking on judges by any means. I hope to have my card one day as well. But I think as an industry, and this can go into the pleasure horses or whatever we want to talk about, it's when you look at that judge's card and or that pool of judges and everybody's different, it makes it hard to say on the way home, I don't know what we should be buying. I don't know what we should be breeding for. So that I don't know that it's new for me to see that. That's something I pay attention to every time I go to a horse show. And I'm sure Logan will have a lot to say about that.
Well, I mean, I agree 100% with what Leighton is saying. You should be able to see this is what they were looking for. When you go down their line, they should pick a type. They should group their horses together. You should be able to go, this is what they're doing. Because, when you're watching, especially for someone new coming in, you go to the Congress or any of the big shows, and I've, eavesdrop on people that, were new and they're going, I don't understand. In this class, they like this. In this class, they liked that. I can't figure out what they like. So you need to, as a judge, you really have to pick your type, and you need to make sure you're upholding the conformation standards of the association you're judging for. And I think sometimes, as being human, your biases do, play a part in what you like, but you need to do your best to uphold the conformation standards that the association has put forth. I think WCHA just did a judges seminar at the Supreme Championship show, and they're really trying to crack down on everybody getting on the same page and trying to be more consistent. I think that was a great event. It was really important. Something that, to go back to the original question that, really popped into my head, and it wasn't necessarily something recently. As halter horse trainers, conformation horse trainers, we're not as divided as we used to be. It used to be you had your paint guys, you had your Appaloosa guys, you had your quarter guys, you had your paint guys, you had your Palomino guys and your buckskin guys. Now everybody takes everything. You'll go down through anybody's barn, you're going to see a paint and Appaloosa. Everybody takes everything and they go everywhere now to all the majors. So I don't think it's as segregated as it used to be. I think a lot of that is contributed to the WCHA and the futurities, bringing all those breeds together and, people seeing that they're really the same horse, just different colored.
Yeah.
So we all have the same goal. So.
And to Logan's point with that, having the double registered horses, it gives that exhibitor more options to go and show for the same money, right? I don't need a paint horse and a quarter horse, and then I've got to go in two separate directions. I can have one horse that I can take and be very competitive across, maybe it's 3 or 4 associations. And as much as this thing costs to do, I think that's a very important thing for the exhibitor to have if they want to do it that way.
I agree 100% with Leighton. The double registered horses I see that being the way of the future. There's too much you can show with one horse. If someone's on a budget, I want to have the best horse and I want to have one horse, they need to go the double registered route because it gives them the most opportunity to show at the most shows with one horse.
And to the futurity point, the same thing, right? If you've got a double registered horse, it can get the color money at the WCHA or the BHF. And, the more awards and money you can earn, I think, especially as an amateur exhibitor, to see some sort of return or some sort of award back to your pocket, back to your barn, it means a lot to everybody, not just the amateur. It means a lot to me still. I think that's very important.
Yeah, to get anything back, even if it doesn't cover 100% of your cost, I mean, anything back is a huge difference. it really helps out a lot.
One of my, not to get off topic here, but one of my favorite questions when I said I was going to take horses was, do you keep any of the money from the futurity? Do you keep any money from the horse show that my horse wins?
Mm-hmm.
No, no, ma'am. That's all your money. You're already paying me. My fees are my fees. We won't get into that. But whatever my exhibitor wins in my barn or their horse wins, that's 100% theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with Leighton there. That's something that I firmly believe. I think when you pay somebody to do their job, obviously if you do a great job and someone wants to give you a tip and you win more than what, your bill's going to be, some people are very generous and they want to give you something, but I think it's very wrong to have a built-in fee there, that you're going to take a percentage of the winnings regardless.
Mm-hmm.
We have to keep this affordable. And I understand that this is a business and we all have to eat, make a living as well. But you've got to take care of those who take care of you at the same time. And that's not, 100% of that is the exhibitor's money and the horse's money. The horse and the exhibitor earned that money.
That's surprising to hear, but it's good to hear,
I thought I'd throw that in there because
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite questions. And I've been asked that several times as we are going into the fall futurity season. And folks are looking for a horse trainer, and those are hard questions and they need to be asked though. And we need to hold ourselves accountable as horse trainers and this industry to keep people in it and to keep new people coming to it. And we need to do our part to we don't need to overreach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, Dalton, what part was surprising to you that trainers take a cut?
Yeah, I mean, I've just heard in the past, and not just in the halter industry, but like in the reining and pleasure and stuff like that, that the trainers take, a percentage of the winnings. So it's surprising to hear and, encouraging to hear, I guess, that maybe not everyone is doing that. So
I'll tell you right up front, my contract has a commission built into it for the horse that's in my barn.
yeah.
But as far as the winnings go in my barn, that's all goes to the exhibitor and the owner.
Yeah, there's only a couple guys that do that, and it's very important to me. I mean, I know the argument is, well, they're more invested in getting your horse to the horse show, but at the same time, they're also more invested in getting your horse to the horse show, and maybe won't do the right thing by the horse.
Yeah, and I'm not picking on anybody, and I know Logan isn't either.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing up the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that I can say that all of that money that owner won, and that horse won, goes back to the owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of the fact of that.
Mm-hmm. This platform is for educating people. That's my hope, is that we bring practical information, whether we agree or disagree. I think it's a value for people to have different perspectives, to hear, somebody walks away with a couple of nuggets from the conversation that help them select more wisely with their trainer, or the person who's doing it themselves and says, you know what, all these things that I hear, if it makes somebody move towards getting a trainer, I think it's worth it. So,
yeah, to kind of build off of Leighton there, I think we've been on the amateur side recently, and we understand how important that is to an amateur or a client to get that money back. Some of these guys have been, professionals for so long, they might be a little bit out of touch about how important that can be for somebody on a budget.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, that goes all back to goals, right? Everybody's goals are different and their wallet is different sizes as well. And you have to understand that right up front before you commit to that person and their horse.
Mm-hmm.
No surprises.
Yeah. I hadn't considered that in the process of establishing goals, and that you may not take a client if you don't think either you can meet the needs or that you align
I would rather tell
person.
a person that I'm sorry, I can't take the horse because I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to meet your expectations, right?
Yeah.
And in any good business deal, everybody on both sides wants to feel like they won a little bit. And if the only person winning is the horse trainer because they're getting paid and the exhibitor is not having any fun, probably not going to stick with it, or they're not going to stick with you, right? And then they're going to have a lot to say when they leave. We all know how that goes, and it goes fast. So I would rather tell somebody no than tell them yes and just collect a check. That's wrong. That's wrong in any business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, being on the client side, one of the most important things that, we always discuss was no surprises on the bill. If something's going to change on the bill, we had to do this, the horse was sick, this or that, make a phone call, say, we got this going on, it's going to cost this much more, it's not included in the training rate. And, make sure things are very clear and not someone getting a bill and going, whoa, this is not what I signed up for. Because we've had that happen in the past, where people just expect you to know, and that can be difficult.
Yeah, if you're new, how can you know, right? Or if you've never had a horse trainer, maybe you've always had horses, but you've not had a horse trainer, and then you get this bill that one line says training, and then there's like 18 other lines, and you go, wow, and you didn't talk to that person about it. I mean, that's a shock.
Yeah.
So my contract states how we work, and like Logan said, if there's a change or we want to make a change or something is wrong, or then first off, pick up the phone and make sure that they're okay with it. If they are, let's get it done. And if they're not, then we need to have another conversation. But no surprises. My customers get billed. There are no surprises on their bill.
Yeah, it's good. Makes me want to come see your barn and sign up. Speaking of, I think you have a new barn. Facebook tells me all these things about you. So I understand you have a new covered pen. I was admiring it.
I did add some stalls to my barn because thank God, I've outgrown it.
Yeah.
And we live in the most unpredictable weather known to man. I live in Ohio, so I don't know what it is like down there in Kentucky, Logan. I'm guessing it's a little like it is up here. So you've got to have a facility. And when I thought about doing this, I actually called Ross Fork, and he said, "Do you have a facility?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "But I will." And so we've taken that step, and I've got some family that's helped me, and my grandparents have helped me tremendously. And my wife and my children support this crazy dream. They support me every day. And so, yeah, I've added on to the barn, and I've got a nice covered arena, and we get stuff done every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite jealous of that covered arena. That's very nice.
Yeah, I was very pleased with how fast they got it up, and it is really, really nice to work out of. I don't know what it'll be. I may end up closing it in come January when I'm out there. But right now, at least I'm not in any mud. I'm not in the rain.
Yeah. You don't lose a day of work.
That's right. And that's important for the Halter horses, as prior episodes have talked about their care, their diet, their workout. It's very, very important to be able to get things done on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's good stuff. If somebody is encountering or thinking about making the switch from amateur to pro, what's a piece of advice that you would offer?
So I'll say exactly what was said to me. You need to get your judge's card right away. It's very important. It gives you a lot of credibility with your clients, especially, it was really important to me because I'm so young. I think that can be a barrier, talking to somebody that might be a select, exhibitor.
Careful, Logan.
I said it nicely, I think.
You did. I'm just teasing you.
So, it gives you a little bit more credibility. It's something to back up what you're saying. Also, you need to show your own horses. Don't hire anybody to show your horses. You need to make a name for yourself as an exhibitor. You can't feel bad if You might get knocked a few places for your customers. That's just part of, getting into this deal, but you don't want to be that old guy that has no stroke, when you're older. You want to be able to go and catch leads, and, people know you as an exhibitor.
Mm-hmm.
And then just making sure that you go and talk to your potential customers, or when your customers are first coming in, about setting goals and making sure you're on the same team. Those were the three things that I heard over and over again.
Yeah, for me, it's just, it's your honesty, integrity, and, goals. Everything goes back to those goals. I can't stress that enough. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a horse in the barn that you own as a horse trainer, as long as you're upfront with your customers. Hey, we're going to have this horse. Grandma's going to show it, mom's going to show it, maybe in Logan's case, whatever it may be, and making sure that they're okay with that too. But I don't see anything wrong with that. And like Logan said, still getting out there and showing and keeping yourself relevant, and trying to do the best you can, because also that attracts clients, right? Customers.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be out there showing and doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you're a client, you need to have, a little bit of self-awareness. And if you have a same, age division, sex division horse, and that trainer has a personal horse in that class, you need to be self-aware and know, what the potential outcome of that is, and maybe you need to decide that I need to find a different horse or somebody else to send a horse to, if that's going to be a problem for you.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point.
But to that point, we see a lot of horse trainers' wives out there showing. We see horse trainers' children out there showing, family members. I think that there might be some folks definitely are going to look at that, and they're not going to be okay with it. And I guess that's each their own, but I don't see what the problem is. And I think that you need to be upfront with your expectations to the horse trainer. And if you're not going to be okay with it, then maybe I'm not the guy, but I don't see anything wrong with the horse trainer's family having a horse to go show.
And I've been around, that type of scenario a lot. And they, the trainers will put in a lot more effort into the customer's horse every time. I mean, you think about a carpenter or this or that, when they come home, do they want to work on their own horses or their own, whatever it is their trade is? No. So their horse is going to be pushed to the back a lot. And they can't always control what a judge does. They have no control over what a judge does. And if they go, oh, that's my buddy or this or that, there's nothing they can do about that.
Communication, communication, communication.
What contribution do you hope to bring to the industry that you haven't stated already? Is there anything else that you've thought of? A title, a class, a trend, anything that's on your mind that you'd like to bring?
For me, I want people to say Leighton's consistent. No matter what he brings to the horse show, he brings consistent horses, right? And I hope I'm not consistently at the back. I hope they are saying I'm consistently towards the front.
Yes.
But being consistent and longevity of the halter horse, right? Don't want the throwaway halter horse that we all get a bad rap for as halter horse people. I want folks to be able to say Leighton's horses are consistent and they live long lives. They're solid on their legs, they're healthy, and these horses will be around showing for a very long time if that person wants to show them for a very long time.
That's cool.
I mean, a personal goal is I would like, to grow the conformation horse industry, bring more people to it. I'd like people to think that I was honest, I stuck with my word, and, really, kept this thing going. And for a long time, make sure I can pass it on to the next generation. And personally, I want to be the greatest ever. I mean, that's just who I am. I want to win, a lot, and it's going to take some time to get there, but that's that. We're all competitive. If you're trying to do this professionally, you want someone that's going to be competitive and, has that edge to them. Some people don't, but when I hire someone to do the job, I want them to go all in.
Yeah, I'm never at the horse show to just be there. I'm not here to, that's me. But again, other folks' goals are different, but I'm not here to just be here. We're bringing what we can to do the best we can. Yeah. Keeping in mind the welfare of the horse.
Yeah. As an amateur, that's what I would want from a trainer, is to do the very best and to win. Like, you need that competitive spirit to not only be drawn to the sport, but to do it as a way to make a living. Yeah. It's good. Good stuff. So, where do you see your brand or business heading in the next 5 years?
Well, just growth in every facet. I'd like to add more stalls, be able to take more outside horses, get to a place where I can hire on some, regular help, to be able to do some more of the monotonous tasks, still being able to oversee everything, but, just grow it, get a covered arena and more stalls.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's just growing more outside horses, being very competitive with as we grow, and being able to have hands-on every horse in the barn. I don't want 25 training horses in the barn. That's not me. That's not the horse trainer that I'll ever be. 10 would be probably the magic number for me. I could still put hands on every horse every day. And like Logan said, maybe I've got some folks in here that do the stall cleaning and other things that frees me up to do the things that we love to do. And it's very rewarding to see those horses as they progress and being able to put your hands on them every day and see that horse get better and better as time goes. So I'm not going to ever be the horse trainer that I'm not going to have 50 in the barn. It's just not me. I can't do it. And I have 3 young kids too. So, there's a balance there for me right now that there's no way I could do any more than 10. So we'll grow, and my goal is just to be as competitive as we can. Let's go win something. Let's put some hardware on somebody's fireplace back there.
Right? Yeah. Let's replace these books with some hardware.
You're on your way.
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to expect to see a BHF trophy back there here after September, right?
That's right.
That's
Look
right.
out. Look out. Here come the Zables. Let's just hope the baby's broke. Yeah.
That's the fun part. You can do it. It's only one. You'll be fine.
You're right. You're right. You're right. We got a well-broke gelding and a baby we've had for 2 days. Woo! Mercy.
I've got 6 babies in the barn right now, and it's great.
Yeah. Okay. So where can we find you online?
You can find me on Facebook, WC Show Horses, or the Wetzel Ranch. My phone number is listed there. Got an email there. You can call or text me anytime.
Okay.
I think that as an industry, not to cut you off, Logan, but all horse trainers are more approachable than what folks think they are. We all are working for the same goal, and that's to keep this thing going. So come talk to us, walk through our barn at the show, our aisle at the show, ask questions, shake hands. We'd love to talk to you. Never too.
They can reach out on Facebook, Logan Lorenz. They can reach out through our Stallions page, LFL Allegiance. Call or text anytime.
Okay. All right. So I've got some rapid fire questions for you that are fun. Give people an opportunity to get to know you just a shade more and maybe grab some tips or tricks of the trade. So what is and feel free, Dalton, to jump in if you want to. What's your favorite show venue and why?
The All-American Quarter Horse Congress for me. It's in my backyard. And it was always a dream to win the Congress. So it's still the one for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily say that, it's a great show growing up, going there. I mean, that was always the goal, to win the Congress. And then the World Show was kind of another thought. But I've really grown to like the Halter Million in Fort Worth. It's excruciatingly hot, but I have grown to love that show so much, and find myself getting pulled more and more to the paint horses just because of that show.
All right.
And the World Show, I love the World Show too, but that's a lot more stress. That's big boy land.
I'll make it 3 for 3 on the Congress.
Okay.
Being from Ohio, it's, go there every year, but fun place. But BHF actually isn't far behind. I had a lot of fun showing out there. So I know it's in the middle of Iowa, middle of September, not much to do out there, but it was a fun show.
All right. What is your favorite class to watch that isn't halter?
It's the Western Pleasure for me.
Okay.
I think the Western Pleasure, but I also have kind of really enjoyed the versatility classes, the ranch classes. I kind of like the more natural movement a little bit more. I'm kind of very fond of those.
I'll go with Logan on that. And I think that a lot of our today's halter horses are fantastic ranch horses. So these folks that say, oh, halter horses don't do anything but stand there, don't say that to me. I got time today. Big ranch horses.
I'll say a pleasure as well, but I actually like the lunge line. I lunge horses all the time, so it's just kind of like watching work, and you like watching like the yearlings, and it's a more natural, movement and stuff. So I actually like watching lunge line.
Yep.
There's so many rules to that, though. It can kind of be hard to keep up on that. You're like, wait a second, that one moved better, but they did this and this.
And the littlest thing that, just make a clean run and you probably can place, there's they're young horses and they, cross leads or run off or something, so it's kind of interesting.
All right. What's one piece of tack or equipment that you swear by?
Good halter and a good lead rope.
Yeah.
Something that you're not going to lose your horse with.
Okay.
Yeah. Something with a nice show halter, and if you're using a lip cord or a chain, something on the end that's long, so you got room to go with one that the size they want to back up. Don't let go. Go with them.
Yeah, my dad had like a custom 10-foot long lead shank made, and I still use it to this day. It's probably like 40 years old, but yeah, it's long and you got to have it.
That's a good point.
Don't skip.
Okay, what about? Stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't skip on it. I know it's not cheap, but buy a good one. Whatever you buy good.
Yeah, having a great show halter. I mean that's and having it fit really good on the horse, having it really high up on their nose. Being a Randy Jacobs kid, that was his pet peeve. He'd go around fixing everybody's halters at the weekend show, get that up off their nose. I mean, that's having it fit right, and having a good show halter can make all the difference between presenting your horse, and it really lets the judges know that you know what you're doing. It's one of those final steps.
All right. Barn chore you actually enjoy?
I love
I
it.
enjoy cleaning stalls.
I
Okay.
love feeding. That's my favorite. That's where it's all the magic happens.
Mm.
I like working with the babies, I know they can be frustrating, but seeing like the progress, of teaching them to set up and then they finally it kind of clicks and so just practicing every day on setting up.
Mm.
It's kind of rewarding when it finally all comes together.
To
Okay.
Yeah.
Logan's point, to your point, Logan, feeding. Well, for me, it's cleaning stalls, right? Maybe I'm in there, it's late, I'm by myself, it's quiet, and I can stand back and I can look at the babies, I can look at the horses, and it gives you a chance to just stand back quietly and be in your thoughts and look at one. I think that's important, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, if mine weren't pocket pets, I'd like to look at them too when I was cleaning stalls. And
Oh,
Dalton's deal, I love them when they set up at the horse show too. It's great to get them to that point.
right. I'm only hoping we get there. So tell me, what is your favorite fitting product or grooming hack?
Fitting product, I don't think there's anything better than DAC oil.
Mm.
You can't hurt a horse. It's only going to help. And no matter what you're feeding, it's going to help. I mean,
Okay.
there's nothing like it.
All of the DAC products are used in my barn. And Pro Elite. Pro Elite has some really good products out there as well. So between those two, I think that there's a lot more good than there will ever be harm.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, same. DAC oils, pretty much all we use around here. So, yep.
And vacuuming. Get those babies
Oh,
vacuumed and vacuum your horses, all of them. Vacuum them. And you don't need, if you want the big fancy horse vacuum and all, that's fine too. But you can get a really nice industrial shop vac will do the same thing, and it makes a world of difference every day. Vacuum them.
Yep. Don't be afraid of water too. Water doesn't ruin your hair. Soap does, but rinsing that sweat off. Don't be afraid of
Yep.
that.
okay. Good tips. Good tips. Here's where the money's at. So, morning or night in the barn? What's your style?
Both. I get more done in the evenings, but you got to get out there early. And then, we feed 3 times a day. So feed early in the morning and then again at 10 p.m. So it's, both.
Yeah, I'm out there early in the morning feeding. Lights are on early. That's important for hair. Um, and getting enough light to them all day is important for your hair coat. But I'm out there early feeding. We feed 3 times a day as well. I'm not at 10, I'm at noon. So it's early in the noon, and then in the evenings, I work horses and stalls and things like that. A lot more things going on in the evening
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or afternoon.
Sure.
We have a 8-month-old boy, so it's kind of I guess whenever I have time, but I prefer evenings, but yeah, it just depends what the schedule's like. So
Yeah. You're at the mercy of your little person.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't like the heat, so early mornings and late evenings. It
Yeah.
was 100
Yeah.
degrees here today, so
Oof.
Yeah, it's hot in
that
Ohio
was a
too.
cold. That was a cold day.
We're having
Mm.
we're having Texas weather in Ohio, so it's hot.
Makes it
Yeah.
tough on the babies.
Yep. All right. What's blasting your truck on the way to the horse show? Hopefully not your truck blasting, but the music.
You never know. Could be anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. It's either 90s country, maybe some new stuff. Um, Little Limp Biscuit, that'll get me going. So it's all
Okay.
over the place for me.
All right.
The Fit for Halter podcast.
Yeah.
Brownie
You
points.
get the gold star.
No,
I gave a
but I
gold
am,
star to Logan earlier, but now it's on you.
yeah. No, I am a big podcast listener, so I mean, I'm always listening to something usually instead of music. So
All right. Most memorable horse you've ever owned or trained?
That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, my stud's mother, I mean, she was my last youth horse, and we won a lot. Obviously, my stud horse, Alpha Allegiance, he's pretty special. I've been there every step of his life. I've been with him,
Yeah.
so he's pretty special.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite. I feel like I have a bond with all of them. So it's really hard for me to pick one.
Yeah.
I've got I had a Palomino mare by Kids Classic Style back in the day, and she was kind of like my first real halter horse. And then we had two babies by her, and both of them won the Congress. So she was probably kind of sentimental. You know, we didn't show her at the big shows, but she probably should have went. And um, but I have a yearling mare that I really like. Just kind of have some sentimental stuff because she had kind of a hard start to life, and so she's been kind of fun. Just going slow with her and kind of seeing her shape up is kind of rewarding too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming back to the Fit for Halter podcast to bring this new aspect of your life. And thanks, Dalton, for joining me and pitching in. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. And like I said, the investment that you're making and the wisdom that you brought to this episode that then gets translated to the folks who we hope to build into. So appreciate you.
Thanks for having me again. Nice to see all of you guys. I know we'll see you around at the show soon. And thanks for what you're doing, Amy. This is really, really important. And in the social media world that we live in, podcast world that we live in, I think that you're doing the Lord's work for the halter horse here. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. I've even myself listened to some people have pulled out some little things that I've tried and enjoyed. So
yeah.
I'll tell you, my favorite episode was the Wayne Scott episode about nutrition. If you haven't listened to that episode and you've got halter horses, you need to be running to the computer or the phone or whatever it is you listen to podcast on.
Yeah, that's the most listened to episode, or actually both of them. So there was one very early on when I first started, and then they did another episode, and we tried to do almost like a part B where we dug a little deeper in some areas, and yeah, they bring it.
Yeah, they're true professionals.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.